I've watched this.
Donald Trump's warned against tweeting about the FBI Russia investigation. An uneasy calm in Honduras as people await the results of the disputed presidential election. The humble text message turns 25. We look at how SMS changed the way we communicate. Houthi rebels in Yemen say they fired a cruise missile towards the United Arab Emirates. But Abu Dhabi is denying the claim. They're fighting back after former President Ali Abdullah Saleh called for talks with the Saudi-led coalition to end the war. Well, the Houthis say Saleh's call amounts to treason. The former allies have been fighting coalition forces since March 2015. Charlotte Bellis reports.
A missile launching from Yemen aimed at an Abu Dhabi nuclear reactor. At least that's what Houthi fighters say is happening in this video uploaded by their military media center.
There has been a launch of a winged rocket of the cruise type towards a live military target, important to the coordination of the Emirati military internally. The former president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, and his militias aim to create division inside Yemen, despite the fact that they were unable to sustain any military, political or economic gains in Yemen.
Abu Dhabi denies this video was authentic, saying there was no missile launch or interception. What can be verified is fighting in the capital, Sana'a. 5 days of combat between former allies, former President Ali Abdullah Saleh and the Houthis. Dozens have been killed. Saleh struck an alliance with the Houthis after a popular uprising ended his 33 years rule in 2012. Together, they took control of Sana'a. Now, they're tearing the city apart. Snipers are on rooftops and residential areas, while tanks replace commuters on city streets. The UN says fighting is so severe, medical teams cannot get to the injured and people cannot leave their homes. There's reports the UN is trying to evacuate at least 140 aid workers, but fighting has cut off the airport road. There have also been coalition airstrikes on Sana'a airport. The coalition, bolstered by the new support of the former President Saleh, have doubled down on the Iranian-backed Houthis. The Iranian embassy was hit by a rocket on Saturday, and in Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen's north, a coalition airstrike killed at least a dozen people.
They targeted my house while there were 18 to 20 guests. My whole family was inside, as well as all our cattle. Everything is gone. There's nothing left.
Tehran has told Saleh to rejoin the Houthi alliance against the coalition. Saleh says he just wants a quick end to the conflict, which has evolved into the world's largest humanitarian crisis. Whether his motivations are altruistic or a power play are as unclear as whether the Houthis really did launch a missile on Abu Dhabi. Charlotte Bellis, Aljazeera.
Well, both Democratic and Republican politicians are warning the US president against his constant tweeting on the investigation into alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 election. On Sunday, Trump tweeted that he never asked former FBI Director James Comey to stop investigating his former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. He blamed so-called fake news for covering lies. Comey testified in June that Trump had spoken to him about letting go of the Flynn investigation. Flynn has pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russia. He insists he was asked to do so by a senior member of Trump's transition team. In a second tweet, President Trump also launched an attack on the FBI itself. He said its reputation is in tatters and called the organization the worst in history. Diane Eastbrook has more from Washington, D.C.
Well, these tweets always seem to get the president in trouble. And this tweet from yesterday was especially troubling because up until yesterday, the president claimed that he fired Mike Flynn back in February because he lied to Vice President Mike Pence about these conversations with the Russians. Now, yesterday in the tweet, he indicated that he actually fired him as well because of lying to the FBI, which raises the question, what did the president know? Did he know that the FBI was, in fact, investigating Flynn? And that is why Senator Dianne Feinstein raised the question of obstruction of justice, because a couple of days after Flynn was fired, the president asked former FBI Director James Comey to go easy on him because he was a good guy. Now, today, the White House is saying that actually the president didn't fashion that tweet yesterday, that came from an attorney. Nonetheless, people within the president's own party are telling him to go easy on the tweeting.
I would just say this to the president. There's an ongoing criminal investigation. Comey may be part of it. You tweet and comment regarding ongoing criminal investigations at your own peril. I'd be careful if I were you, Mr. President. I'd watch this.
And Lindsey Graham said that he didn't think that the FBI was dysfunctional, although he did raise questions as to whether Flynn lying to the FBI constituted a crime.
Less than a week after North Korea tested a missile it says is capable of reaching the United States, South Korea and the US are putting on a show of force. Joint military drills are underway. There's plenty of impressive hardware on display. It's a clear message to North Korea, which the White House National Security Advisor has labeled the greatest threat to the world. Aljazeera's Kathy Novak has more from outside South Korea's Osan Air Base in Pyeongtaek.
I'm outside the U.S. Osan Air Base, and we have seen a number of fighter jets flying in and out. It's all part of the biggest ever joint U.S.-South Korean air drills. They're part training and part show of force against North Korea, which, of course, just on Wednesday launched its most advanced ever intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, these drills were planned before that launch took place. They take place every year, and they always anger North Korea, which calls them a rehearsal for invasion. And indeed, before these drills went ahead, the North Korean foreign minister said that the U.S. was begging for nuclear war by staging an extremely dangerous nuclear gamble on the Korean peninsula. Now, these drills involve F-22 stealth fighter jets, F-35s, and also altogether about 230 warplanes from the U.S. and South Korea, and also about 12,000 personnel are taking part.
Now, residents in the Honduran capital, Tegucigalpa, are preparing for more protests following a disputed presidential election. A week of violent clashes has left 3 people dead in fighting between opposition supporters and security forces. The Electoral Commission is yet to declare a winner. As of now, President Juan Orlando Hernandez is narrowly ahead of opposition candidate Salvador Nasrallah. His supporters say the results have been manipulated. A nighttime curfew has been imposed across the country. Our correspondent, Manuel Rapallo, is in Tegucigalpa.
Protesters made their way across the city of Tegucigalpa on Sunday, answering a call by opposition leaders who have asked supporters across the country to march.
There are thousands of people on the streets of the city demanding that the National Elections Commission be forthcoming with a decision. They're also calling for Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez to step down.
Demonstrators express a general mistrust of the National Elections Commission, making the job of international observers all the more valuable.
We want the recount to be fair. No matter who wins, we will accept it, but not with election fraud.
We won't allow him to be president. We won't obey his orders. We want to remove this repressive government. The people of Honduras have woken up, and we are tired of what's been done to us over the last 8 years.
There's a large military presence in the city, enforcing a strict 6 p.m. curfew. The Honduran military's response to a wave of violence and looting that gripped the country in recent days. At least 3 people were killed and dozens others injured. It's now been a week since the general election, and while peace has returned to the city, the concern remains that as long as the political limbo continues, violence could spark up once again. Manuel Rapallo, Aljazeera, Tegucigalpa.
Former Egyptian Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq says he's still considering a presidential bid, although he says he needs to explore the option further. Shafiq made the comments on Egyptian television, his first appearance since arriving in Cairo on Saturday. Last week, while in the United Arab Emirates, he announced he was intending to run in next year's election. A few hours later, he issued another video statement saying he was not free to travel. His family said they feared he'd been kidnapped, which Shafiq has since denied. The UAE is a strong supporter of Egypt's incumbent leader, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The Palestinian Authority is calling for emergency talks over the possibility of the US Embassy in Israel being moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation are being asked to host the meeting. Israel's government considers all of Jerusalem its capital, while the Palestinians hope that East Jerusalem will be the capital of their future state. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is warning of a new, dangerous phase if the US moves its embassy and recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Well, the US president has to decide on Monday whether to issue a waiver of that 22-year-old law requiring the State Department to move the embassy. The waiver has to be renewed every 6 months. Trump's son-in-law and White House advisor Jared Kushner says the president is still weighing up the matter.
He's still looking at a lot of different facts, and that when he makes his decision, he'll be the one to want to tell you, not me. So he'll make sure he does that at the right time.
Trump is expected to announce his decision in a speech on Wednesday. The minister says the announcement will send a clear signal to the world.
I think that the US President Donald Trump knows and understands the needs of the region. And by validating Jerusalem as the eternal united capital of the State of Israel, it's something he declared and wanted, and I think by implementing it, he is sending an important message.
Lara Friedman is president of the Foundation for Middle East Peace. She says moving the US Embassy to Jerusalem will only bring negative consequences.
The last time this came up 6 months ago, it was the intervention of King Abdullah of Jordan that had a significant impact on President Trump's decision not to move the embassy that time. It's possible that this time, if he hears again from King Abdullah, who is just in Washington, if he hears from the Saudis, I don't know what he needs to hear from the Palestinians. The Palestinians are in a weaker position in Washington right now than they have been at any time since 1994, when their mission was reopened at the start of the peace process. The potential closure of their mission here now hangs on them responding positively to the president's efforts to bring them back to the table, which is quasi-blackmail already. It isn't at all clear to me what leverage they, on their part, have on this administration at this point. Powers in the region may not care that much about the Palestinians, but their people do. And Jerusalem specifically is a red line, because Jerusalem touches on things that are much bigger than the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That has been the conventional wisdom. For Jordan, this is a domestic issue. Jordan, under its treaty with Israel, is the keeper of the holy sites in Jerusalem. So what happens there is a domestic issue for Jordan. For Saudi, which wants to play a bigger role, do the Saudi people care about what happens in Jerusalem? My personal analysis is that yes, this makes a difference. I don't know, we'll see. Same with Egypt. The other piece of it is what happens on the ground. The Palestinians are working on reconciliation. Both Fatah and Hamas are working very hard to show that they are relevant leaders and relevant in challenging Israeli policies that are anathema to Palestinian interests. So my understanding is that Fatah and Hamas are already talking about what the joint response would be if the announcement on Wednesday is bad on Jerusalem, and what that really would mean on the ground in terms of potentially a groundswell of opposition like we haven't seen, or a groundswell of demonstrations that we haven't seen maybe in a very, very long time.
Well, still ahead on Aljazeera, the Emir of Qatar is set to attend the GCC summit after deep divisions in the Gulf put the annual conference in doubt.
Long live the Chinese Communist Party. Long live Chairman Mao.
It's been a closely guarded state secret for 53 years. We explore the size of China's nuclear arsenal. Plus...